Hi, my name is Weatherman, and this is a lesson on how to properly play the Phrygian dominant scale, specifically in the key of E. Before you pick up your guitar and learn this unique scale, I want to first go over a few things about the scale. I want to talk first about the history of the scale, as well as how it diverges from the original Phrygian mode by just specifically changing a few notes in the pattern. Also, I want to give a few examples of how it's used in popular music today. The Phrygian dominant scale has many different names. You may hear it referred to in other mediums as the Phrygian scale, the alternated Phrygian scale, the harmonic minor perfect fifth below, the dominant flat 2, flat 6 in jazz arrangements, or the fifth mode of the harmonic minor scale. The first accounts of the scale in music goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. They called this scale a harmonia, which is based on an octave species built from a tetrachord. Later in history, the Catholic Church developed a Phrygian mode of their own based on the ancient Greeks' harmonia. This occurred during the medieval times when churches began using more and more music in their chants and secular services. In modern times, the Phrygian mode, also known as the diatonic scale, was cultivated to resemble the modern natural minor musical minor mode. This other mode that the Phrygian represents is also named the Aeolian mode and is one of the major modes in music theory. Now that we know a little of the history of this scale, let's talk about some common usage in today's music. Like mentioned before, this scale is common in jazz. Many jazz musicians, or those influenced by jazz, have used it. Some famous examples of guitarists that use jazz scales and other experimental patterns are the virtuosos Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. Experimental guitarists and jazz guitarists are not the only famous musicians that have used this scale. For example, the famous metal band Iron Maiden uses all sorts of scales, including the Phrygian dominant scale. The following example is a clip from their song Power Slave, where the lead guitar plays a good sample of a modified Phrygian dominant scale. So now that you've heard a little bit of the history of this scale and seen a few examples from some popular songs that you might have heard, and be able to now identify the actual scale, what you've heard, I'm going to go ahead and go over the actual structure of the scale. First I want to show you the Phrygian mode, which is the original basis for the dominant scale, and then I'm going to show you the actual dominant scale itself. First thing you need to know, though, and I'll explain this as I show you on the strings, is that the actual pattern that this is played on is it's going to start at an E note, then go to an F, then a G sharp, an A, B, C, D, and then repeat. The first thing I want to cover is knowing actually what strings you're going to be playing on. This top string, when you're tuned in E standard, is E, then your second string is going to be A, your third string will be D, then your fourth string is going to be G, fifth string a B, and then again your sixth string will be another E. Now first I'm going to show you how to play the actual Phrygian mode before I show the alternate version, the dominant. To play that, you start right here on your E, which is one octave up from being open, and you're going to go 12, 13, 15, switch strings to your A, 12, 14, 15, switch strings again down one more to your D, 12, 14, 15, then you're going going to come down to your G, and you're only going to play 2 notes on this string. You're going to play your 12, then your 14, and you switch down to your B string, and you're going to play 12, 13, 15, switch one more time down to your E string, and you're ending on an E. If you want to keep going, you can go 12, 13, 15. And then put it all together and you have something like this. Now that we know the actual mode, I'm going to show you what has been changed to make this a dominant scale. What you're going to change, the first thing, is on your top E string. Instead of going 12, 13, 15, you're going to go actually 12, 13, 16. And then you repeat the same pattern all the way down to your D string. Now when you change here and go to your G string, instead of going 12, 14, you're going to go 13, 14. And then it's going to sound something like this. And then you continue on as you would normally in the mode. Right? Go into your B string, 12, 13, 15. And then again, ending on your E. So it'll be like this. And backwards. And that is basically your Phrygian mode and your Phrygian scale put together. Now that we know how to play the Phrygian mode and the Phrygian scale, a lot of people are wondering, well, how come things don't always sound the same when you hear leads and whatnot? Well, obviously, as long as you play something inside the same scale, as long as you play those notes, then you can pretty much have unlimited places to go. So let's say you want to do something in this scale. Well, let's try from the beginning and then moving to the D string. You're playing everything in the same scale, so that's why it's going to sound, theoretically, it's going to sound correct and not sound off kilter. A lot of times you'll hear repeated notes or tappings or whatnot all within the scale, and it's just to add some flash to make something sound a little bit more than mundane normal scale. To wrap up what we've learned, you might feel this scale sounds very reminiscent of cultural groups, such as what you might expect to hear in a Middle Eastern style song. It can have what some call an Egyptian sound to it. Other cultures have used this scale in their music as well, such as Jewish, Turkish, etc. Here's another example of a well-known guitar riff that has its basis in Jewish music. The song you just heard is called Miserlou and was performed by Dick Dale. Many may hear this and think of an altered version that is heard in the popular movie Pulp Fiction. Again, this altered version also follows the Phrygian dominant scale. Okay, well now we know the Phrygian dominant scale as well as the Phrygian mode where it's based off of. I want to thank you for your time and your interest in this scale, and I hope it helps you to write unique pieces of music and improves your playing, and just as always, just rock on.